This isn't just some, hey, let's jump on the bandwagon of death and destruction of the church. Let's rip down the church. Let's flip some tables. And there is some flipping of the tables, but what flipping of the tables doesn't mean is setting a nuclear bomb off in the church and decimating the entire thing, right? So
No.
there is a healthy way to approach this. And what correct me if I'm wrong, what I see is your heart is not that the pendulum would swing from total grace, total dismissal of problems to persecute everybody, but we need to actually get this pendulum to swing back in the middle where, yes, there is grace, but there's also accountability. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I definitely lean grace, mercy, forgiveness. And not to speak too much about my career in healthcare, but I worked in the pediatric emergency room for 11 years. Every
Yeah.
child who's coming in there is ill, injured, or abused. I have
Mm.
sat in a space with an abuser whose child was in the emergency room because of something that this person did physically to this child. Sometimes these children lost their life over this. And here I've sat in the space with these abusers actually providing them comfort and support because they are, even though they maybe did this thing that caused this horrible injury or caused this child to lose their life, they're still grieving what they did, right? So I have
Yeah.
this, it's sort of strange. And again, there's people who might not make a lot of sense of this, but I've sat in the tension of comforting people who did things that were wrong in as a reaction, I would say often, to a strong emotional impulse that they had. I have tended to the children who were damaged by this abuse in the physical space. I make
Yeah.
a lot of correlations between the hospital and the church because people go to a hospital when they are ill or injured, right? Or
Yeah.
abused. And people come to church when they are ill, injured, or abused. And
Yeah.
we're looking for comfort and safety and support and care in those environments. So, my approach to the church has always been like I lead forward with a foot of compassion, forgiveness, mercy, grace. I mean, I think that when I look at most of scripture, I see Jesus doing that. I
Yeah.
also can see Jesus in his humanity as someone who has studied emotions and that emotional response that we get inside of our brain. I am a student of stress and coping theory. So I see these very human tendencies also playing out often when I'm reading scripture. I think about the time that Jesus was drawing in the dirt, and everybody's like, I wonder what he wrote because scripture doesn't tell us. I sometimes think that that's just Jesus as a human regulating
Dealing
his
with it.
emotion, right?
Yeah.
Before he stood up
Like,
and
not everything Jesus did was, like, 100% this is God, I'm teaching you a lesson. I'm actually writing a I'm not like he didn't we have no proof if he actually wrote like Psalms 27 or something in the dirt and that's what the religious leaders read and that's what convicted them. He could have been doodling.